Today marks 1 year since a rule on censoring obscene media in public libraries went into effect in Missouri. Since then, libraries across the state have started using new procedures and changing the way they interact with children. Our Capitol reporter Hannah Falcon reports from Jefferson City.
That rule gives parents the ability to challenge anything that's in a public library. I talked to the Missouri River Regional Library here in Jefferson City about what changes they made following the implementation of this rule. After the Secretary of State implemented a new rule 1 year ago, librarians like Angie Bain at Missouri River Regional Library got to work changing policies.
It was a lot of work.
The rule requires libraries to clearly separate books and media for children and other materials, and gives parents more control over the content available in libraries. Missouri River Regional Library had to expire all the library cards belonging to minors and have their parents fill out forms designating how much permission their children have to the media in the library.
We are still doing that today.
Bain tells me the library has not received any official complaints under this rule.
We've probably had more complaints about completing the form.
The library rule empowers parents.
Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft put this rule into place.
And so that they can make sure that the state tax dollars that are going to their public library are not going to pornographic or obscene materials.
While the rule was still in the works, Ashcroft says there was a lot of negative feedback. The Missouri Library Association called the rule vague and confusing, saying, quote, libraries concerned about challenges leading to loss of funding are more likely to remove books from their shelves, end quote.
I don't think it's ever bad to protect children, but I also don't think that libraries are places that children are necessarily being harmed by information.
Ashcroft could not give me an exact number of complaints that have been filed in the past year, but says that most are handled locally without state interference. Reporting in Jefferson City, I'm Hannah Falcon, KY3 News.